Hi, welcome to this video. Today I want to talk about the process of healing emotions and what emotions are and how it's related to forgiveness as a healing process. We all in life experience pain in different forms, from very small ones, small experiences, and that cause little traumas, as we call them, to big ones while we've been abused physically, emotionally, mentally. And all these pains are somehow get stored into our body, into our system, and into our memories. And as long as it's stored there, it influences your life. And it does that because we have the tendency to avoid these pains to come up. And these pains that are stored in your systems, also called these low vibe emotions, these are low frequency elements in your system that literally hold your system in a lower vibration. So you could literally say that because you have these low vibrations in your system, you radiate this low vibration, very unconsciously of course, but that also attracts the same frequency back into your life. So you will also attract people with this low vibe into your life who show anger or resentment or who show their fears in whatever way they express it. So as long as you keep your own emotions stuck in your system, these fears, you will keep attracting repetitive patterns in your life until you break free from them. And in order for us to prevent feeling these fears again, we have created defense mechanisms, and that can show up in many, many different forms. The very obvious one are expressed anger towards others, or to blame others, or to hide ourselves in order to avoid experience the same thing again. So it's kind of like ignoring what has happened. Or we have an issue with commitment because being committed to a person brings up the fear that the same abuse or the same pain may be caused to us again. Or we project our frustration and our anger onto others and blame others for being the fault of our miserable life. So we have many, many different defense mechanisms, and in another video I will share more about the dynamics of the defense. But for now, it's just good to recognize the first signs of your defense mechanisms. And anything that you do in order to avoid the pain is a defense mechanism. So again, we have had a pain. We avoid feeling this pain again by defending ourselves. So literally put on a shield around us so we cannot get hurt again. But that shield also prevents us from showing our real selves, our true selves, to others. So it's also more difficult for other people to come into your life and to receive them openly in your life, and that so you can connect deeply. And that also happens at very different levels, not just in intimate relationship, but also in friendships, work relationships, everywhere where you have difficulty in showing who you are, your authentic self. It is because this defense mechanism shield is in front of it. So once we open up to ourselves for whatever reason, like for instance seeking for guidance to change things in our lives, or by reading a book, or by just suddenly creating clarity on our own behavior, we actually open up to these emotions. So these emotions come to the surface, and that creates fear again. And that creates like, oh my God, I don't want to feel this again. And then we have two options. Are we going to suppress the emotion again and keep it locked down somewhere in our system? Or do we open up to heal? And the healing process has, you could say, two main parts. The first part is is just opening up to the emotion and the fear and the pain itself. So literally allowing it to be there. And that's an active invitation to yourself to just allow it to be there. And then whatever comes up, whether it's a memory of a story or of a painful event, or whether it's a physical pain in your body, then acknowledge that this pain is there. Deeply acknowledge it. Just deeply feel into that. That's acknowledgement. Just completely see it, feel it, be with it. And then the third step to release it is to just be with it and actually let go of the whole narrative, of the whole story, of the whole painful experience. And just sit with the pain itself. Very objectively, you could almost say, which is very difficult because you were the one who was hurt. So it's difficult to be very objective when you can still feel that pain so personally. But nevertheless, you can somehow imagine to open your heart space and to embrace this pain, like you can visualize that you embrace this pain into your heart where it gets released. There's not much doing to that. Just visualizing that you're opening up your heart is already enough. And also with the acknowledgement of that pain is there, it really helps to just breathe deep into your belly, because all our pains are actually stored in our belly somehow, or at least that's where they show up. That's where we have the big lump or the stuckness or the contraction. It's often happening in our belly. So using breath as a way to create space in that area helps a lot. And the second thing is connecting to the perpetrator in this case, who caused you the pain, connecting with the person himself or herself helps in the next process, and that's the process of forgiveness. And forgiveness is for the victims who've been hurt one of the most difficult things, because it feels so unfair that you have to be, that you are the one who has to forgive the other person while you did nothing. You were the victim. You were not to blame for anything. You were not responsible, especially not if you were a child. It literally happened to you. So why are you the one who should forgive the other person? But that's a conscious choice. It's a conscious choice to take responsibility over your own life and decide if you want to end this relationship, which is still there in the sense that you're still energetically connected to each other in this pain. And it's a choice to literally decide actually to cut that loose, to set the other person, the perpetrator in this case, free, and set yourself free in the process of forgiveness. And it helps if you are able to step in the position and the situation of the perpetrator just for the, I would almost say just for the understanding. And for me it always helps I strongly believe that every baby is born innocently. We all come to this earth with pure innocence. And also research has shown that we don't inherit, well, we do inherit a blueprint, which might be that we're more sensitive for certain behavior and certain traits like anger and aggressive behavior. But that's just a blueprint. What most defines us in our lives is how we are brought up as a child and a young adult. What experience do we have? So most of the time, or practically always, the perpetrators are often the ones who had extreme pains in their life before. And because they could not deal with those pains, they became the perpetrator themselves. So they used the defense mechanism not to feel the pain themselves outwardly in an aggressive way towards others in order not to feel the pain themselves. And trying to understand that there's always a reason and a story behind the behavior of some person might help to be able to forgive that person. Not because you're proof of what has happened. That's absolutely not what this is about. I mean, abuse is not in any way ever something we can approve of. But finding some sort of softness, even if it's a little bit, to the perpetrator, that there must have been a reason for that person in his or her life to be acting in this inhuman way, might soften you a little bit toward this person. And then the forgiveness is mostly a process to honor yourself and honor the other being, and then the true being, which is within that person, within that personality, within that aggressive personality. There's also a being, a very innocent, loving being inside. It might be very well hidden, but there still is a being inside. And the forgiveness is connecting to that being, from your being, your true being, to that other being. And forgive that person for what he has been going through and what he has done to you, is a way to literally cut that energetic cord between the two of you. So you set yourself free, and you set the other person also free, and give that person energetically, because you don't do the forgiveness often verbally, but even at a distance you're still connected energetically, and this is an energy based on the emotion that connects you. But to set that person free energetically, you give the perpetrator the chance to heal him or herself. And it's not up to you whether that process happens or not. That's up to that person. But at least you have done what you're responsible for, and that is for your life and your responsibility to your life. And you cannot be held responsible for what happened to you, but you're still responsible for what you do with it, how you deal with it, and how you heal yourself. Responsible in the sense it's a choice. It's a choice if you want to set yourself free and live more freely and try to find flow and try to find your inner empowerment, then it is absolutely needed to set yourself completely free in order to prevent that the repetitive process and patterns are happening again in your life. That you keep attracting people in your life that you don't feel aligned with. And it's only happening because you still had that pain inside you. So this process of forgiveness is it's extremely healing towards yourself, and just try to feel into it. You will never get the confirmation, you will probably never get the excuse from the other person. What will definitely make it more easy to heal, but you can do this step for yourself, and it really helps to write a letter. To write a letter to that person. You will never have to send it, and where you can describe your pain and what it has done to you, and then end with that you forgive that person for what he has done, and that you're sure that he or she has had his or her pains, and that you wish for them to heal themselves. And then you can burn that letter. But writing it down and acknowledge the forgiveness on paper is very challenging, but very healing. And then where does that leave you with your boundaries? The boundaries are automatically there, because when you heal yourself and when you go through the process of forgiveness, then you literally raise in your frequency. You literally raise your frequency. Your vibration of your system goes up. And that's the most perfect boundary you can create. Because when you're in a higher frequency, you won't attract lower frequencies so easily anymore. And if you do recognize a lower frequency, you can just observe it, and you know how to relate to it and not become involved in it, not become triggered by it. So there is an automatic boundary, a very natural boundary when you raise your frequency. And by releasing and healing your emotions, you raise your frequency. Because the stuckness in your system, the low vibes in your system, are literally gone or released. And this process of forgiveness might take a while. It might need a few laps. You might need to repeat it, to have to repeat it a few times. It really depends on how vulnerable and how open you can step into it. And every phase is perfectly fine. And you can do this process of forgiveness to anyone who has hurt you in any way. It can be a very small thing. Just literally consciously forgiving that person and thanking that person for being in your life and for showing you something. Because that's the other side of us human beings. We endure pains throughout our lives, and somehow it makes us stronger. And you probably know the examples, the people who have gone through the worst pains and the worst abuse. You can think like, how can they ever survive this? They have become the strongest persons, and they have found the power within themselves, like this power, like this will never ever happen to me again. And they have found their passion and their purpose, so it won't happen to them again. And that's this true inner empowerment that comes along with this higher frequency. And then you feel this inner empowerment. So the process of forgiveness is literally cutting cords. I think that's the most the most easy way to look at it. So you literally cut the cord, and the bond is broken. And it's also a process of forgiveness to yourself. It's like allowing the pain and acknowledging the pain that it's there, but also allowing yourself to literally forgive yourself that you were part of that process. Even when you are a victim, there's always a feeling of guilt that you allowed it to happen, even if you could not have done anything because you were too small or unable to do anything. We always feel some sort of guilt, and forgiveness to the self is letting go of that guilt and letting go of that shame that comes with it. And that's a very difficult process, but so healing to yourself. And that's taking responsibility of your life and finding your inner empowerment and finding your inner love and your inner higher frequency, which is the love, to improve your life. So I hope this helps and makes it more clear, and definitely try to write the letters. I know it's the most difficult one, but it's the most healing one. Okay, thank you. See you in the next one.